Hi guys, it's good to be back, and I've got to say it, I am thoroughly enjoying going through the book of James. Now, if you've missed any of them, feel free to go back, because I don't think there's a book in the Bible that is so jam-packed with so much good advice and straight shooting on how James puts it. So I encourage you, if you've stumbled across this video by accident, there's a whole series of the book of James that we've done before this, and of course there'll be a whole lot more after this, but make sure you go back and catch up. But anyway, thanks for joining us, and today we've got another really just straight up verse out of the book of James, and we're reading from James chapter 1 and verse 26. And it says this one is probably the hardest thing to do that we've talked about so far. But it says this: if anyone considers himself or herself religious, a Christ follower, yet does not keep a tight rein on his tongue, he deceives himself, and his religious or his walk with God is worthless. Now, wow. I mean, we're talking about people that are in church. We're talking about people that are Christians. We're talking about people that are doing the right thing and following God to the best of their ability. They're religiously doing all that they know to do to follow God. And yet James is saying here that if all of that's happening, but yet he doesn't keep a tight rein on his tongue, he doesn't watch what he's saying, he's not careful about the words that he's putting out, then the whole of his religious experience just comes to naught. And to me, that is a powerful scripture. And I want to talk to you about that today. I'm preaching to myself today. I'm always preaching to myself. That's where I get all my content from. But out of all days, I'm preaching to myself today. We have got to be careful what we say. We have got to be careful about the words that come out of our mouth. We have got to put a tight rein on our tongue, because if we don't, it can undo all of what we're doing in following God. It can be undone in a split second. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there in the world, and I get this, rightly so, that they look at Christians. There's people that say, yeah, I go to church and I follow God. And then they say something or they do something and people just go, what a hypocrite. I mean, it's just crazy. Why would I ever want to be a Christian if that's how they act or that's how they behave or that's what they say? And sometimes with the words that come out of our mouths, people can't even tell, whether we're saved or not. And this is what James is trying to address here. He's saying we've got to keep a tight rein on our tongue, or our Christianity can actually do more harm than good. And that's what we want to talk about today. Now, there's a couple of things I just want to mention, and I don't want to, these are not rules. These are just things that I think will help us really tidy up what we say. Obviously, you can say whatever you want, but if you start to use certain language and you start to use certain sentences that are pulling people down, then God wants to help us change that and put a bit of a rein on it. Now listen, let me just throw this out. The first one I want to chat to you about is swearing. Now, I don't want to go into what swear words are good and what swear words are bad, if there is such a good thing, or what swear words are okay and where you draw the line. Everyone draws the line of what they consider swearing at a different spot. I remember when I was growing up, I used to say the word bum. And my mum would say, you can't say that. That's not right, and that's a dirty word. You don't speak like that. And I can think of a lot more words to describe your backside that are worse than bum. But that's where my mum had drawn that line. Now, I don't want to get into where we draw the line. That's not the point of this video. But I want to put this out to you. If you are using words in a way that is criticising people or pulling them down, then that's what we've got to stop. If you're calling someone a dirty this or a that or a this or a thing or a that, I'm not going to say any of them. But if you're describing someone and you're using a word that is negative towards them, then why are we doing that? That is one of the things that James is talking to us about here, that we've got to be careful what we say. And when it comes to individual words, we might hit our thumb with a hammer and we go, oh, beep, and we beep it because it's not the right thing we should say. If something goes wrong, rather than curse, what about we just say, God help me? What about we say something nice? What about we just do anything but just use the words that can be so destructive, especially when we're calling them and saying them to other people. So I want to talk about that first of all. That's just swearing, and you guys can work that out for yourself. The second thing I want to talk to you about is speaking out in anger. Now, when you get angry, you can often say things that you don't really mean. Or if you do really mean them, you shouldn't say them anyway. And I want to encourage you that when you get angry, when you get in a fight with your husband or your wife or your kids are frustrating or your parents are frustrating you, don't let anger become a launching pad for a whole bunch of destructive words that should never be spoken. Now remember what James is saying. He's saying that if you're following God and you're calling yourself a Christian, then put a tight rein on your tongue. We're talking about swearing. We're talking about slagging off when we get angry. And I know this is a big topic. I get it's a big topic. But I want to encourage you. We've got to just start to rein our tongue in. And it's not you. I'm not preaching at you. I'm not saying it's all about you. We've all got to do that. There's things we've all got to cut out of our language. We've all got to stop saying. We've all got to stop, venting when we get angry because it's not helpful. And James is saying it actually can pull your Christianity down and you're not walking as close to God as you would like. Now, I know that we can all be forgiven and we are every day multiple times. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't start to try and do the right thing, especially with this one little area here and especially our tongue. Now, let me talk to you about verbal abuse for a moment. People say, well, it's not that bad. We've talked about swearing and then we've talked about, coming out in anger. But what about just verbal abuse? I've got written down here and, if someone cuts you off, on the road and all of a sudden you're going, you so-and-so. I mean, they've made a mistake and they've cut you off. I get that. I understand that. And I understand it's frustrating. But it doesn't give us the right to slag off about their mother and their kids and their son and where they came from and the fact that they're adopted or whatever else you might want to put into your sentence. We've just got to pull back on that verbal abuse. And your parents, with your kids, as frustrating as they are, we've got to be careful that we don't start a whole mind game with them, that we basically beat them up with our words and we push them down with our words. And we can do it with our kids, we can do it with anyone. And you know what? We've just got to stop it. We've just got to say, you know what? I've got to be clearer. I've got to put a rein on my tongue. And I've got to make sure this thing starts to go in the right direction. That's what James is asking us to do. Now listen, what about gossip? Talking behind someone's back. You may not be swearing, you may not be angry, and you may not be abusing someone. But just talking badly about someone, true or not. Gossip does not necessarily mean that it's not true. Something can go wrong and someone can do the wrong thing. The gossip is about you spreading the fact they did the wrong thing. And people say, well, they did it, I'm just telling the truth. No, if the other person doesn't need to know, why are you gossiping about another person's misfortune or the mistake that someone else made? Why are you talking like that? See, it doesn't have to be out of anger or abuse. It can just be gossip and just speaking badly about other people. If something happened and I don't know, one of your friends got pregnant or something and whatever, something happened, you spreading that. And you talking about it, and you just saying, I just have to tell them, it's gossip. And the Bible's saying, let's stop this. Let's stop this negative talk about other people. Unfortunately, there's cases where people can be in churches and then they're speaking badly about their pastor or about other leaders or other Christians in the church. Guys, it's got to stop. And if you're out there and you're someone that is bagging your last pastor or two pastors ago or a leader from another church and now you're in a new church, listen, God is saying your Christianity is worthless while you're using your tongue to pull someone else down, churches down, leaders down. Listen, no one made you or me judge, jury, and executioner. We are not allowed to speak negative about anybody at any time. We shouldn't speak negative about our family, about our church, somebody else's church, whether a church meets on Saturday or Sunday or Tuesday or Wednesday. Listen, none of your business, none of your beeswax. Just pull your head in, tighten up this little screw on your tongue and say, you know what? Whoa, let's just not do that because we've got to pull it in. You know, the funny thing is, it's so easy to slip into. I'm getting passionate about how people can, pull down other people and pull down churches. And on this video, I've already said things that are criticizing the people that are criticizing others. Oh my goodness, it never ends. But listen, my point is, we've all got to try and just do the right thing, say the right thing. Paul has talked in chapter 1 about doing the right thing, about saying the right thing, about being the right thing, and this tongue is a big one. And listen, as I close, let me just throw this last verse out to you. This one's not from James, but it's connected to the tongue. In Proverbs 18:21, it says this: the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat from its fruit. Listen, our tongue carries the power of life and death. Now you might say, how can that be so? Listen, the words that we've said and the things that we say, whether it's verbally or we've texted or put it on Facebook, those words carry life and they're going to build someone up, or they carry death and they're going to start to pull someone down. You know, I know people that have been bullied on Facebook by what people have texted and what they've said, and then they couldn't handle those words that were text out to them on Facebook, and then they've taken their own life. Your words and your texting can bring death to people. And I want to encourage you, come on. We've got to look at this one. We've got to look at this little thing in our head, this tongue, and we've got to realize how powerful it is and how much life it can bring, which is a good thing. That's what we should be using our tongue for. And also how much death can come out of our tongue and how much destruction that can actually bring. Now, I encourage you today, don't forget about your tongue. Be careful what you say. Be careful about the words you speak. Be careful about the words you type and the words that you text. And let's use our tongue to bring life to everyone that we meet, and certainly not bring death. Listen, I'm done for the day. That's a big one. So make sure that you remember that. Apply it to the best of your ability. Remember, if you mess up, God's grace is there for you, and you can start again the next day or the next moment. So don't forget about that. But let's try to take steps in the right direction on this topic. It's a big one that all of us have to get involved in, and all of us have to work hard on to make sure we do it well. Well, until next time, catch you later.